Rob. Uh, I am so bad with name. Rob, please, Pontecorvo.
All right, very good. Thank you. I want to make sure before I start that everybody can hear me. Yes, and you can hear my background music, and you can see my screen, correct? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, part of my job as the opening speaker for today's session is to set the mood, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing, setting the mood, focusing on our theme for today. I'd like to wish you all a good morning from New York. That's where I'm coming from. And welcome to the Florida GeoGebra 2021 conference. My name is Rob Pontecorvo. Cassie did a great job of pronouncing my name. And I am the coordinator of math for the Sewanaka Central High School District. Okay, I've enjoyed a close relationship with GeoGebra since about 2017, when we began working together on getting my district to be one of the first districts in New York State to use an app and an iPad as a calculator on our state high stakes exams. Now, for those of you who've seen me speak before, you know I like to start my presentations with this picture of my dog, Cookie Jellybean, because I find that even if as a speaker I crash and burn, people usually feel pretty good when they see this face, and they feel okay because they're going away happy, haven't seen such a stuffed animal looking dog. You know, but on a serious note, Cassie informed me that the theme for this year's conference is what did we learn after 1 year of teaching in a pandemic that we can use to improve mathematical instruction. Well, I'll tell you the truth. I am very uncomfortable discussing the pandemic, okay? The number of people who are sick, who have been devastated and by this is, to me, it's just daunting. Another problem that I have, I don't know about you, is that I work in a school where we're supposed to make the kids feel like everything is normal. You know what? I don't think anybody feels like things are normal with the tragedy that's happening among us. But we're humans. They say we're smart. And if we really are smart, we need to improve the world and make it better than it was before. We have to make it better, safer, more peaceful. You know, it reminds me of an old story about a brand new bride who wanted to make her first big dinner for her husband. And she knew she wanted to make her grandmother's famous brisket recipe, cutting off the ends the way her grandmother always did it. Well, after an absolutely successful meal, the husband said to the wife and said, honey, this was delicious. But let me ask you a question. Why do you cut the ends off of the roast when you make the meal? And the new bride said, well, that's the way my grandmother always made it. So I followed her recipe. The next week, this same newlywed couple, newly married, had a dinner party at a friend's house, and the bride volunteered to make the brisket dish because it was such a hit. So she worked very hard making the dish, following the grandmother's recipe, and the people that she made it for just loved it. But they said, well, why do you cut the ends off of the roast? Is that necessary to enhance the flavor? Well, in order to try to fully understand the traditional recipe, the young bride went back and spoke to her grandmother. And she said, Grandma, why in our recipe do we cut the ends off of the roast? And the grandmother said to the young bride, honey, that's the way we did it because that's the only pan that we had, and we had to make the roast fit into the pan. The story is supposed to point out about things that we do by tradition, things that we do because we've always done them before. But you know what? There's many things that we've done before this pandemic that I hope we never go back to, that we never do again. Let me give you some examples. Food buffets. I don't know about you, but I never really felt comfortable in a food buffet. Don't get me wrong, these people are dressed very nicely and the food looks very good and quite fancy, but all those hands sitting in that food that's just been sitting out for a long period of time. I mean, and when someone invented the need for like a sneeze guard over a food buffet, that should have told us something was really wrong. And we probably shouldn't be doing food buffets. I hope they never come back. I give you another one. How about this? Doesn't this just seem wrong? Why do the employees have to be reminded to wash their hands with soap? I mean, this sounds like an argument I have with my 11-year-old son. If I have to describe to him the difference between washing your hands and wetting your hands, one more time, I'm going to lose it. I explained to him, when you're wetting your hands, that doesn't mean you're washing them, okay? And doesn't this sign really mean that the employees are supposed to wash their hands? What about everyone else? Here's another thing I don't miss. Working in office cubicles. Doesn't this look like a fun place to work? Now, again, don't get me wrong. We all miss the personal social interaction of the office environment, but I don't miss this. In that same vein, how about kids learning in cubicles? I mean rows, and sitting in rows. You know, education in the United States is one of those traditions that's remained the same, virtually unchanged since Benjamin Franklin. After all, as an adult, have any of you ever tried to sit in a school desk for 9 periods in the day? It's physical torture, okay? Now, I'm sure Henry Ford would like educating by kids in rows because it's very mass production. But is this how kids really think creatively and innovatively and become problem solvers? It took a pandemic for us to finally pivot and learn to do things different. Now, of course, I'm not saying our new reality is any better right now. I mean, certainly Zoom calls are different, but this is just sitting in rows. But there are other apps out now and other pieces of the apps that we use, apps like Gather or breakout tools that start to change things and make things different. Because if we don't change things and make things different, we might as well just be like this. And for those of you who don't know, this is from a television show in the United States in the 1960s and 70s. And there's the great image that we're all used to now. And again, this is 1969, 1970. So there's a problem that we got to fix and we want to fix. In flies an old friend. Now, we've all used the GeoGebra apps for years, right? These powerful, beautiful apps, calculators that really can be used not just as a calculator, but as instruction. But GeoGebra is working on making things even better, right? Everybody knows they don't stop. Ed spoke just a little while ago and said we were on GeoGebra 2.0 and now we're on GeoGebra, I don't even know what. GeoGebra, of course, appreciating everybody's love for GeoGebra Classic, develop what we now call GeoGebra Suite, which will take on all of those qualities of Classic that'll give you the power and the beauty of all of that functionality in an app, okay? Things that are coming in the near future in GeoGebra Suite, well, again, let's talk about the theme. What have we learned better within the last year? Well, let's look at the data. Within the past year, GeoGebra's websites hits are up over 88%. Desktop installs are in the hundreds of thousands per month. And it's very important to notice that the app downloads more than double the desktop installs. This supports the fact that mobile devices are predominantly used around the world. Mobile apps provide better image quality and greater accessibility. So GeoGebra works with that and will soon be developing into the GeoGebra Suite's calculator, spreadsheet functionality that we all love in Classic, the probability calculator, and all of this is also going to be available on an offline version for Mac and Microsoft so that you don't have to have that computer connectivity. Of course, all the resources continue to be available on GeoGebra's website for free, right? But where are the improvements in remote learning and interactivity? Well, GeoGebra and its community have developed hundreds of new resources that can be copied, modified, or just used as is. We're all familiar with the dynamic math resources for instruction, right? But GeoGebra is not just about math. And I think our new learning environments have really made that more visible to teachers around the world, more than just math teachers. The resources can be used for all disciplines and all grade levels. You know, when I think of my first connection with GeoGebra, it was for a high school calculator. Well, there are elementary school teachers from every discipline, every subject area, high school, middle school, that are all looking to GeoGebra for help. Here's just one quick example of the type of feedback tool or formative assessment that has just only been recently developed that even hits on the SEL, what we call in New York. SEL is the social emotional learning aspects of teaching. Kids can give feedback with a thumbs up, a little emoji, right? A chart of their stress level. So it's not just math feedback and answers. It's feedback on how you're doing, how your day is going. Are you learning and understanding? But what good is feedback if the teacher can't see it, right? That's where GeoGebra Classroom comes into play. With Classroom, let me see if I can make that slide come up. Hold on. Sorry, hold on. I think my screen froze. Oh, I see what it is. Sorry about that. With Classroom, teachers can distribute digital materials quickly and easily. Students work on assignments with or without a GeoGebra login, of course, right? The login is never necessary. It's helpful. You can do a couple of more things, but never necessary. And the teachers can check answers of students in real time and get an overview of their students' learning progress. And for those of you who haven't been using Classroom, wow, you're missing something, okay? The directions are easy. You just start with a resource and create a class from it. You share that resource with your students, and you review their work in real time. Let me give you a quick demo of a teacher view in GeoGebra Classroom. I am going to see if I can, hold on, let me hover here. Oh, let me go back. Sorry. Let me see if I can hover here and get this link. Oh, you know what? I don't think I have to. Let me just do it this way. I'm going to copy this link from this resource, and I'm going to put it in the chat if I can do this correctly. This is the part of the presentation that is hardest to practice. Let me see. Can you change can you change my view? I'm going to pull up the chat. I see it now. Q&A. I have the Q&A. I don't see my ability to.
On the bottom, you should see chat. Check it that up, maybe.
I think, you know what I might do to make it easier on me? Because up more. There it is, chat. Thank you. Let me put this in. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you all to split screen on your computer, open up a new window, use that link. You should be able to see it now in the chat, and join this GeoGebra class. And if you watch my screen as you do that, let's see if this works. Can you all use that link and join that GeoGebra class? Here we go. Albert's in, Alicia's in. Now I could see it. Katzia's in. So here we go. So welcome, people. It's that easy. You are all now in my class. If you click on the resource and start to do it and click start on the resource, Cassie has gotten started. Here's a simple elementary level activity where a student has got to basically put money into the cash register to pay for an item that they're being assigned to purchase. Cassie, it looks like she's buying a yo-yo. Albert's working on something. Oh, Mr. B is buying bubbles. Albert's buying a top. Some people are buying candy. And people, as I sit here as the teacher, you could see my screen, I can monitor and watch what my kids are doing. I could see who's active and who's inactive, right? I have some students here who haven't gotten started yet, right? I would say, Susan, please get started on the activity, and then it will refresh. And when you could see also the way you're working, how I could see what's going on real time. Let me just take Monique, and I could focus in on what Monique is working on. and I have a full screen view of Monique individually. I think you can see that. Monique is working on buying the top. It's 45 cents. She's put in a quarter and 2 dimes. If she checks that and clicks check, and then let's see how the real-time feedback works with all of these participants. I think, Monique, if you click check, we'll be able to see how you did. Unless you already did, and maybe it still needs to refresh. But any minute, we should see that Monique basically was successful in purchasing her yo-yo, right? So, oh, here it is. Monique is on now to the next thing. She's buying bubbles. So Monique has purchased her yo-yo, and she's now buying bubbles. So GeoGebra Classroom, just quickly and easily, I make a class, and here we are in school, and I'm getting formative assessment information on all of you remotely, right? And again, you know, I'm not just talking about a class, I'm talking about a class of very large size, right? We are a very big group. Let me go on. Now, one of the other new apps developed, or resources developed by GeoGebra, is GeoGebra Notes. And again, if you have not played with Notes yet, you are missing something fantastic. But to me, what's even more fantastic than Notes is what's coming out in Notes next. You see, that cash register problem that we just did is still a little mathy, right? Money and change, and very much a math lesson. But Notes doesn't have to be. Notes can be any subject, any discipline at all. And what's planned for Notes? Well, what's coming up, and we'll play with it in a little bit, is a multi-user notepad where kids can, Ed's very happy about the multi-user. Awesome, thanks, Ed. So with multi-user, kids will be able to collaborate remotely, right? I mean, even next year in the US, students might be in the classroom full-time, but they won't all be able to touch each other's stuff and touch each other's notes and touch each other's iPads. That's not yet. So here with Notes as a collaboration tool, they can all work on a note at the same time. And GeoGebra is also working on incorporating a chat feature, right? And in Notes, there are resources where you can literally pull up blank sheet music, and the kids can compose on a sheet music template, graph paper templates, any kind of PDF that a teacher wants to pull in, a worksheet, and have kids work on it together. And this one I'm going to do from scratch. So watch how easy it is. This is a quick demo, of Notes. And this is the multi-user version. So here I have my blank Notes resource. I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call it Florida GeoGebra 2021. Here we go. Let's create a class. I think I'll have you all working in groups of 4. Sounds like a good idea to me. I'm going to create the groups. I have to copy the link to share to all of you, so I'm going to put it in the chat. There you go. Please click on that GeoGebra class for Notes. Join me in this class resource or live lesson. And feel free to start doodling on a blank notepad. Together as a group of 4, you will be assigned. Here they come. Here's one group. There are 2 students in it already right now. 3, 4. There we go. 4 kids in that group. Second group is forming. Third group is forming. Fourth group is forming. And feel free to start doodling in those groups. I can see that group 2 is starting to draw. Looks like Alicia is writing hello, or someone is writing hello. If I click in that group, I think I could see what's happening. Whoops, let me go back. I think I clicked out. Did I just click out of that on all of you? Ed, can you give me a head nod? Are you all still in the group? I think I might have clicked out of the group. All right, well, that was no, you're still working. All right, very good. So I did something in error because I'm very new at working on the beta version of Notes where I clicked out of the group. But I think probably
go back to your profile.
Go back to your,
Go back to your profile page on beta. It'll be there.
Thanks, Tim. So
Yep.
again, I'm very new at that. If I'm here on my opening page, right? Thank you. There we are. Thank you, Tim. You are the best. Let me tell you something, people. I'm loving the things that GeoGebra has, but there's nothing like someone who uses it in the classroom and is the pro like Tim is. We all know that. Tim, thank you very much. That's awesome. So here I am, back to my profile page, back to the group. And look, somebody is importing something with a graphing calculator. Somebody is brought in other kinds of images. I'm watching what you're all doing, and it's some very cool stuff, right? But I'm running real short on time. So I'm going to pull out of that and go back to the presentation. And I want to talk about another beautiful thing, the latest free offering. I hope you're all familiar with the highly acclaimed content and practice standard focused curriculum called Illustrative Math. Well, now GeoGebra makes this open educational resource available to you digitally for free. And you know what? Of course, with GeoGebra, digitally just doesn't mean PDF copies, right? Digitally to GeoGebra means hundreds of additional interactive activities that engage students in live or virtual or hybrid instruction settings. Using GeoGebra Classroom, teachers are able to monitor and formally assess their students' work and progress in real time. Let's take a quick view of what illustrative math looks like. If you open up the illustrative math page, of course, you could see there are middle school and high school curriculums. The high school curriculum is still not finished, but will be ready easily by the beginning of next school year. We'll take a look at some of the high school material in a minute. When you go to the middle school curriculum, of course, there are breakdowns by grades, 6, 7, and 8. Let me just jump into 6th grade quickly. You could see every unit of study, 9 units of study. One thing that I like to do as a teacher is start by looking at my pacing guide. So of course, there is access to pacing guides for grades 6, 7, and 8, a weekly breakdown of where you should be for each unit. Let me go back. One can open up any of the topics or any of the grade level items, and they're broken down into 2 sections. There's teacher materials and student materials. What are the teacher materials? Well, all of this, again, here is presented by Kendall Hunt, but it's all the illustrative math resources, preparation for the lesson plan, information about the standards that this lesson hits, okay? Descriptions and explanations, additional PDF resources, lessons, the actual lesson plan, what the teacher should do for the warm-up, how the lesson gets launched, right? It's all out here, okay? What the kids do for practice. And practice is what brings me to the GeoGebra add-on. You see, because these materials, the ones that are presented by some of the publishers, give you PDF resources. And GeoGebra worked diligently at making those resources interactive and digital. And that's where they take it well beyond PDF. Let's open up a different GeoGebra resource. This is an Algebra 2 lesson or resource added on to the GeoGebra or the illustrative math lesson, Algebra 2, Chapter 2, Lesson 10. So I didn't take you to the teacher resources, we went right to the student resources. And now watch how easy you can take the illustrative math digital resources that GeoGebra has added, create a class. I'm going to use just this activity. You can select to choose the whole book if you want, and not every single activity. It doesn't have to be done activity by activity, but I'm just going to choose this one activity that I want you all to play with. I create a class, copy the link, send the link to my students in using whatever management tool I use. I'm going to put it in the chat. That's our school management tool today. There it is. And you can all join my Algebra 2 illustrative math course. And as you do, I'll see you coming up. Here you go. You could start to answer those questions and work on those
Sorry,
activities.
Rob, if you put a link, you should choose all panelists and attendees, okay? Because you are.
Say that again, Cassie. I'm sorry. You should
If
choose
you
open.
put the link, please choose that all attendees also, because you are sending the links when you put it in chat only to panelists.
Oh, thank you.
No, that we were copying it. But
oh, you were
okay.
taking care of it for me. Thank you.
Yes. Take care.
Well, okay. I bet I have to thank Diana. Diana, thank you very much. Or whoever is helping me out there. You all had my back and I didn't know it, is what you're telling me, Cassia. So I was basically sending the link to one person or two people, the panelists, and you guys.
But that's okay.
Thank you so much.
No, all good.
That's awesome. Well, here you are. So that's one of the reasons it took all of you, I guess, longer to come in. That was my fault, my delay on the webinar. I'm sorry. Here you are. You're joining my Algebra 2 class. And looks like Erica's moving right along. She's already started one of the activities. Sarah's on her second one. I purposely chose this lesson because it shows you the variety of things that can happen in a GeoGebra activity, right? I think it had multiple choice. I think it had open middle question. This might have had a constructive response. I believe there's something in there where you can sketch a graph using notes. And later on in the activity, there's even something to use with the graphing calculator. Should take a minute and play with that. I'm going to check my timing. Oh, I'm doing very well now. I was not going as fast as I had thought. So we are in very good shape.
You are in very good shape, Rob.
Yes, thank you.
Breathe in and breathe out. You can continue.
So let's give them a chance to play, I think, because again, this is GeoGebra's add-on to IM. You know, IM is a written curriculum. You know, this is what makes it interactive. And this is what makes it available, again, on every learning platform, hybrid, full remote, or even full live. I don't know about all of you. I'm very fortunate in that my school district, we've been on a one-to-one iPad initiative for about 5 years now. So every one of our students has had an iPad for 5 years. We work digitally every day, even before this terrible pandemic, right? So, you know, we are very much used to sending students materials. And the idea of a material like this also is, you know, one thing that we struggle with in my school district when you're assessing, you know, both formative, you know, and summative assessments. One thing that we struggle with is the questions that are Googleable, right? Where a student could look up a question and look up the answer, right? Most of these questions are designed to be original, not just so they can't be Googleable, but so a student has to think, and there's more than one answer, and they can write their answer. I'm just looking at some of the things that are coming up in the chat. So the idea is, you know, it doesn't matter if a student doesn't have a proctor directly in front of them watching that they're not looking up an answer on their phone. You know, when we first started our one-to-one initiative in my school, we were worried about kids being on different sites all the time and going and getting off of the lesson. Well, the longer we've been doing it, the more we know it's a non-issue, right? We don't mind if the kids get on their phone. We don't mind if they look something up, because if they can look up an answer that we're asking, we are asking the wrong question. Right? We need to ask questions that aren't just Googleable, where you can look things up. I'm noticing that we have some questions. I want to thank you very much, Agnes, for putting that in to the chat. Maybe how should I look at those? What's the best way? Through the Q&A?
Hello, Rob. So we